Hey folks, and welcome to TK Power Sports and out here to beautiful Utah. We are here today with the 2025 Yamaha RMAX4 1000. This thing is brand new, and we're going to review it. So we'll go through all the features, we'll take it on the trail, I'll tell you how it handles, and then I'm going to jump in the back seat and see if it really is big enough for a full-size adult. So make sure you stay tuned. Let's take a closer look at the features on this unit right now, but before we do, let me just show you where we're at. Out here in Utah, just another beautiful area. Take a look at that stone arch. These huge stone formations all the way around us. If you've never been out here riding to Utah, definitely put it on your bucket list because it is gorgeous. So now let's talk about this RMAX4 Limited. So when you go limited, you're getting all of the features here straight from the factory. You can see factory installed winch right down there. When it comes to the suspension setup right here in the front, you get a total of 14.2 inches of travel, and this is the IQS suspension, which means you can change the damping force from inside the cab at the touch of a switch. Now, if you go for other models in the lineup, you'll get the QS3 shocks from Fox, which means you got to get down there and use those clickers. So yeah, once you get top of the line, you don't need to be outside getting muddy or dirty. You can just change everything from right inside the cab. Now, of course, the other big deal with this model is just how big it is, because it is significantly larger than the last RMAX4, and actually that RMAX4 still exists, but now it's called the RMAX4 Compact, so they also kind of shuffled up the lineup. Let me read you the full dimensions now. Width here comes in at 64 inches, overall length 150.8 inches, and then overall height 82.7 inches. The wheelbase 118.1 inches. Ground clearance comes in at 13.8 inches, while the wet weight on this unit is 2,315 pounds. So it is pretty big, but to truly compete in this segment and offer a back seat big enough for a full-size adult, you kind of have to go this big, and this is probably a better competitor than the old RMAX, or again, the RMAX4 Compact. It's a better competitor for the Commander and the General because they're also this long. So getting around to the back here, the other important feature, Yamaha maintained the dump bed. So you get the functionality of that bed, which is nice just to be able to pack your stuff in. And then if you are working with it and you want to, you can still come along here and dump it. The mechanism was sticking a little bit. And that also gives you great access down into your power plant. So now that we're back here, we can take a quick look at the back seat. It is definitely significantly larger than it was in that other RMAX4, now the RMAX4 Compact. You can see down here on the floor, they've angled it and they've given it that built-in grip. So you can really plant your body using your feet. There's your handholds right there. Rear passengers get some of their own storage. That one's pretty shallow, but this one up here is massively deep. So deep, in fact, that Yamaha put a little LED light inside because it's so easy to lose your stuff down in there. So nice to have all of that storage as well. And then a lot of the other new features we're going to find up here in the front end. First of all, there's your four-wheel drive knob. Yes, this unit now has turf mode, so the rear diff can be unlocked. On the flip side, if you go to diff lock, that's going to lock up your front end, and Yamaha says that the front locker is way better now, much quicker to engage. We will definitely put that to the test. The other thing that's new here is the entire system here in the center stack, the Adventure Pro system. Yamaha has changed it up. No longer detachable like it was before. And actually, if you've been on a modern Yamaha Wave Runner, well, you're going to recognize this system because essentially it's pulled from the Wave Runner and then optimized for off-road. With screens like this, you're clearly not going to see this on a Wave Runner, but I love it, telling you what your differentials are, your pitch and roll. Again, the map is a huge deal. You can see our entire ride today has been pre-mapped. So you just follow that little blue line and you know that you're where you want to be. You can also record your rides and then go back and download those maps. So the functionality here is quite good. And you probably already saw it, but yes, that is a rear view camera. So you get a nice reverse camera here too. And yeah, this machine is so big, so long, that having the reverse camera is super helpful. Now down below, some more controls. We now have the selectable controls for the EPS. So the power steering, you can go low, standard, or high. In low, it's pretty similar to the way it was before, or the way it is on other units that don't have selectable EPS with Yamaha. Standard's even lighter, and then high is the lightest setting. There's your suspension settings from that IQS that I was mentioning. Oh yeah, and then there's also these cool splash screens that now come up to tell you which mode you're in. Same thing when you change the drive modes over here, the D mode switch. You get these little screens that let you know which mode you're in. And yes, we have crawl, trail, and sport mode, and that affects the throttle response and just the travel in the throttle pedal and how much you have to really get into it to access that power. So there you go, folks. Oh, I didn't mention the tires. 30-inch Maxxis Carnivores. This is a square setup, and because it's the Limited, we're getting those nice aluminum alloy wheels. If you went for the XTR, you'd actually get a set of bead locks down there. So that's about it for the features. Now let's keep riding, and I'll tell you what it feels like in the front. And you know what? I'm also going to hop in the back, because they keep saying it fits a full-size adult. So let's see how that actually feels right on the trail. All right, folks, and now here we are out on trail in the new RMAX4. So the first thing we have to acknowledge, and you're going to notice it, it's a loud machine. Even with this big wheelbase and the engine being further behind me, it is still pretty loud in this cab. The RMAX has basically been like this, the 1000 since it came out, and that hasn't really changed. So I'll identify that right off the top as one of the downsides for sure. Outside of that though, everything else feels quite good. So the obvious change here is the wheelbase. We're stretched out to 118 inches, and that just adds smoothness to the ride. Coming up and over these whoops, bumps, rocks, everything, this thing feels so much smoother than the RMAX4 Compact. Now let me go over that in more detail. So the RMAX4 Compact is what we knew as the RMAX4 previously, but for 2025 we now have RMAX4, that's this one, the big one, and then you have the Compact, which is still a 4-seater, but of course in a much smaller wheelbase. So if you're riding in an area where that turning radius is a big deal to you, you can go for the Compact. And I really like the strategy by Yamaha to offer different choices, because a lot of people, like I said, do want to take 4 people, but they don't want the massive sort of limousine feeling of one of these machines. So Yamaha now offers you that choice, and of course they're at different price points. So that was, I think, a very smart move by them, unlike, you know, Polaris and Can-Am, where they really only have the huge wheelbase 4-seaters. They don't offer anything that's a little tighter in size. Now, all that being said, one of my other very first impressions behind the wheel is that this thing actually turns pretty sharp. I haven't really seen the need to do any 3-point turns, to turn really wide around things. So while the turning radius is obviously going to be longer here than the Compact, it's really manageable, even on some of those tighter trails, because I feel like it just turns so well. Now let's talk through the other new features. In my mind, the biggest one is adjustable EPS. So the power steering now, you have low, standard, and high. Low means you're going to have the most feedback in the wheel and the least amount of power steering force. High is going to be the opposite. Now what's interesting is that previous to this, Yamaha always just said, we tune our power steering for a good blend of feedback, but then also taking some of those hard hits out of your hands. And in low mode, I feel like this is the most reminiscent of that power steering. However, one of the engineers told me that even in low, this is boosted more than the RMAX was before. So yeah, you can expect a little bit more power steering force even when you're in low mode. So selectable power steering, that's a big plus. Customers always appreciate having more choice, so it's really a smart move by Yamaha. I hope it arrives to the rest of the lineup as well. Now, one of the other new features here for 2025 is turf mode. And turf mode is essentially one-wheel drive. Previous to this, if you went on your lawn, let's say, and you turned in a tight circle, the lawn's gonna get ripped up because the rear was always locked. So it doesn't allow the tires to turn at different speeds. And it was a pain point for a lot of customers for that exact reason. If you just want to work around your house, if you just want to, I don't know, drive the kids around in the backyard, you don't want to be ripping up your grass all the time, and you always were. Plus, with that rear locked, you can't turn quite as sharp. So now Yamaha has turf mode. That's true one-wheel drive. It's something that people have been asking for many, many years. And Yamaha basically told us that they didn't want to bring it to market until they felt like the durability was up to spec. And that's what took them so long, designing a system that would last as long as they'd like it to. So that remains to be seen, but I can say that that's another function people definitely have been asking for, so it was a smart move by Yamaha to bring that out. And that's another thing I would love to see arrive to the rest of the Yamaha lineup, ATVs included. Even the Grizzly is always fully locked. It'd be nice to have a turf mode on those ATVs as well. So we know they're going there, and we know the engineering is good. Hopefully they now spread it to the rest of the lineup. And the last big deal feature that's been added, and I just turned it on, is a locking front differential. Now this is a brand new locking front diff, because they did have a front diff lock before, but there's a few differences. The biggest one is the engagement. The old differential locker used splines, so essentially it felt old school. It felt like sometimes you'd have to sit there rocking the machine back and forth to get those splines to line up, or turning the steering, going forward and back. Now, the engagement on this new diff is seamless. I just turned it on, it came right on, and away you go. And then the other thing that changes is because they have the selectable power steering now, when you put it into diff lock mode, the power steering actually turns up even beyond high. So it has its own setting for diff lock, and that's because usually when that front diff is locked, the steering becomes very heavy, very awkward. Right now, I mean, I'm coming around decently tight corners with the front diff lock, and the steering wheel is super light. I could do this with one hand. And that's what they were going for. They wanted it to be seamless activation, but then also while you're using it, to not have to be wrestling with the wheel. And now folks, here I am in the back seat of this RMAX4, and this is definitely an area of focus for Yamaha. One of the reasons I came out with this machine with the bigger wheelbase was to make sure in the back seat you can fit a full-size adult, so I wanted to test it out. Now I stand at 6'2", over 300 pounds, so I'm probably larger than most full-size adults. So if I fit back here, anyone should. And I gotta tell you, I'm okay. I have enough knee room. I'm not contacting the seat in front of me. I'm close, but I'm not hitting it. And then it's even nice, there's this plastic kind of bash plate on here. So if you do run your knees into there, you're not just running it right into a steel bar or anything. And then the handhold, nicely distanced from my body. I think the most important part back here though is the angled footwell underneath me, so I can really dig my feet in and just using my legs keep my upper body in place. So yeah, overall the fitment is great. Another addition to the back that I like, we have this sort of pickup truck style sliding rear window over here. So if you want that airflow coming all the way back through the whole cabin, you can open up that rear window. That's a new accessory, and I do like that as well. The units we're driving today do have a number of accessories on them, and I actually do have a bone to pick with one of the accessories. That's the new tip-out windshield. I got into a machine first thing this morning that had that new tip-out windshield, and it comes with a bracket that's maybe 1.5 to 2 inches that lines the entire window. And because I'm so tall, I'm looking out of the top portion of this window. Yeah, I could barely see anything. So I had to swap into a different unit with a different window on it. So I'll just say a warning to tall folks, if you're looking for a windshield, don't go for that tip-out windshield. Now, luckily, Yamaha makes 8 different OEM windshields for this thing, so there's no lack of choices. Right now, I just have the poly fold-down windshield, and yeah, it's perfect. Line of sight is great, and then if I wanted to fold it down to get that airflow, I could do that too. They have full glass options as well, so yeah, lots of windshields. But just a word to the wise, if you're tall, you're not going to want that flip-up windshield. Now, we're actually doing some pretty decent rock crawling right here. We're in an area called the San Rafael Swell outside of Green River, Utah. And we've been on all kinds of different surfaces today, from some water and mud to a bit of snow, some real silty fine sand, some real tacky kind of red clay. So yeah, it's been a really nice mix of surfaces. And I think I say this every time I'm in Utah, but if you ever want to come riding somewhere that'll really take your breath away, come to Utah. It's so beautiful here. But the reason I bring that up is because this thing has been handling everything great. The Maxxis carnivores, I think they're really a known quantity by now. They're handling excellently. Lots of grip in the rocks, lots of grip in the wet, so no complaints on the tires. And then we'll talk suspension, because that's another big deal here. Unlike the RMAX4 Compact, Yamaha took the RMAX2, which has more suspension travel than the Compact, and they stretched it out to make this unit, which means we're getting almost 17 inches of rear travel and nearly 15 inches of front travel. Those are huge numbers, and I can tell you that running at 40, 50 miles an hour over some pretty rutted out, nasty stuff, this thing is absolutely swallowing it up. So the comfort here overall is excellent, and that's suspension combined with wheelbase, and they come together to, yeah, really provide that comfort. Now currently, I'm riding in an XTR model, so this has the QS3 shocks, so I have the clickers all set to number 2, the middle mode, and it really is a nice balance. It's soft enough that it's swallowing stuff up that I want it to, and yet firm enough that I feel like the handling is still pretty tight. I'm not, you know, wallowing all over the place. I was in a limited earlier with the IQS, and the IQS, the differences are a little more pronounced from soft to firm. Firm is quite firm, and soft is really soft. You really are kind of wallowing all around the trail. So you do have to decide what works best for you, but I think I come back to this every time. Having more choice for the consumer is better. So now that we get that IQS suspension, yeah, it just means a better ride for you because you can adjust it on the fly. So if you go for an XTR, I don't think you'll be disappointed with the QS3s. I just think that the IQS has a bigger split between the firmest mode and the softest mode than these QS3s do. Well, folks, we are coming to the end of this one and our day with this new RMAX4. Now, I do have to hit you with the prices. So for the 2025 RMAX4, you're talking about $27,999 for the base XTR model and $29,199 for an upgraded limited. But there is a pretty big price difference because the base model RMAX Compact starts at $24,199, and I think that's sort of a big takeaway. Is this is a great machine, but more than that, I think what Yamaha has done with the lineup makes a ton of sense. Now, for customers who want all of the space that you get out of this RMAX4, it's available. And then for the customers who don't want that and want to keep things compact, well, they can go get their compact model. So I like that the lineup has been built out, and then yeah, all the features that came here, the selectable EPS, that new front diff locker, the new Adventure Pro. There's so many cool upgrades. It really does make this a great side-by-side for touring with your friends and family. So yeah, folks, that's it for this one. Now, of course, I need to hear from you. Drop into the comments. Let me know what you think of everything you've seen in this video. As always, while you're down there, don't forget to hit like, hit subscribe, hit join to become a member. Then come right back here to TK Power Sports to see what we're testing next. See ya.